हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्य मध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्य पर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Om. So namaste everyone. I thought we'll begin today with a Mangalacharan that Swami Pramathaji has chanted with the Gita Dhyana shlokas. So if everybody is able to see my screen, I'll also turn the mic on.
पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुतं देवं तच्चाणूरमर्दनम् परमानन्दम् कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् द्रोणतट जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी स्तोतीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैर्गणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलम् गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेतनं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम् लोके तस्य न षट्पदैर्हरः कीर्त्यमानं मुदा भूयात् भारतपङ्कजं कलिमलं तत्त्वं विनश्येयसे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः।
Okay. So we'll begin with our Gita. And Shobhanti, I believe if you are here, then could you please ask Ishwar uncle to check his email because I've sent him the link over there, and I've also sent it on Facebook. So, or in case if you like, you can send this link on the side to himself over here. So I just pasted it. So whatever is convenient, but I think my mom has already informed Ishwar uncle. Okay. All right. So we'll just begin. Who'd like to start reading? Let's just assign the order quickly. Shobhanti, is your mic working today? And Shalini ji? Uh, okay, so for now, let's just. Abhinav ji, are you able to read today?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so let's start with you because that's I see you on my left.
Okay.
Shalini ji, let me know whenever you can. Shobhanti, is your mic working? Can you just try to speak just to test it? Sundar ji, would you like to read?
Sorry, did you say for me?
Yes, yes. Would you like to read?
Sure.
Okay.
So are we setting the order now, or are you asking me to
Yeah,
start?
I'm setting the order. So you can see it on the right side. I'm typing the order so that everybody
I see.
can merge seamlessly.
Right.
Okay, if Shalini ji and Shobha ji are able to read, just let me know. I'll add you into the order. Okay, Abhinav ji, it's all yours.
Yeah. Hari Om. Allowing the means of knowledge to work. If I am the solution, I have no reason either to deny what Vedanta says or to prove that it is correct. Just as in our earlier example, the man had to open his eyes to prove that he could see, so too, the only proof that Vedanta is a means of knowledge is in allowing it to work. I should let the words to do their magic on me. Words refers to a certain knowledge born out of words. Words are not just words. They can reveal and thereby remove my ignorance. The words need not always give rise to indirect knowledge. They can also give direct knowledge. When the Veda talks about heaven, the knowledge is definitely indirect. In fact, it is a belief. There is a description giving you some indirect knowledge about heaven, if indeed there is one. Every tradition has its own description of heaven, and we understand it from that description. The Veda then reveals the self by saying that it is beyond words, and at the same time uses words to make you see the truth of yourself. Therefore, the self is not beyond words in the usual sense of the term. It is something entirely different, highly technical, as we will see, and may take some time to understand. When words are about an object away from myself, the knowledge is indirect, and when they are about an object around myself, the knowledge is direct. Suppose I hold up an orange. You know it is a fruit, but suppose you don't know what kind of fruit it is. Then I tell you it is an orange. You now know that it is an orange. Then you want to know how it tastes, and I tell you how it tastes. That is not enough. You have to taste it actually. You also have to taste some other you also have to taste some other oranges as well. Only then you will come to know more or less all about an orange. When you smell an orange, peel it and eat it, not knowing that it is an orange, and I say this is an orange, the knowledge is direct knowledge, immediate knowledge. Now I ask, do you exist or not? I exist, I am, you say. Then I ask, who are you? To this question, there are many answers, all of which reveal I am insecure. However, I say you are secure. This is not just a statement. I have a whole methodology of teaching. I take you all through the steps logically and then I say, therefore you are secure. Is this knowledge immediate, direct, or mediate, indirect? It is immediate, direct knowledge. Vedanta is therefore a pramana, a means of knowledge, and you have no other way to proceed except to expose yourself to it, taking it as a means of knowledge. You need to understand exactly what Vedanta is saying. If you do not understand, you have questions, then you should make an effort to understand. If what Vedanta says is untenable, I should see how untenable it is and examine the untenability. Perhaps it is my understanding that it is untenable, and what is said is tenable. If that is the case, then I correct my understanding and keep on correcting it, thereby seeing what Vedanta has to say.
Feel free to discuss anything here if you like.
Prashant, here it says, it tackles the question of who am I, which is a very famous question, if I must say.
Yes.
Do you have anything to say on that?
So this is a fundamental question of philosophy, and I have a funny joke on this before I actually proceed with the answer. So last year, we were part of a concert held by composed by one of Pujya Swamiji's students, Kanikeshwaranji, and the director of that concert was a Korean person, and his name was actually Huumai. So it's like who mai. And so, I actually quipped about it during our session there that you should have been a philosopher instead of a musician. but anyway, as you said, this is a fundamental question. This is the basis of philosophy. And in our Indian philosophical traditions, there are 6 essential questions that different schools of thought used to debate amongst. And these questions had to be addressed by every teacher or every participant in that debate. The first is the nature of the self, the most essential, the most important question that one has to talk about. The second is what is the nature of Ishvara? And this might be surprising to some extent because even if a person is a Nastika or a Nireshwara, then he would still have to disprove this notion of Ishvara or try to explain why he does not, understand or why he does not wish to choose to accept such an idea of Ishvara. So the first is, nature of the self. Second is nature of Ishvara. Third, fundamental question is the nature of the universe. We all agree that we exist within this physical universe of material objects. So to describe its nature, to describe its essential fundamental structure, that was one of the questions in philosophy. The fourth was the nature of bondage. Everybody uniformly has limitations in their life. It could be emotional limitations, intellectual limitations. There's always some sort of a bondage which is like pulling us down. So that was the fourth question. The fifth was the means to liberation, or rather, what is liberation? What is freedom from this bondage? Which is basically talking about moksha. And the sixth thing that people discuss, the sixth topic was the means to this liberation. Like, how do I, now that I know there is bondage, I know that there is something called moksha. Now, how do I gain that? What is the means to lead me to this moksha? So these are the 6 fundamental questions in philosophy, and it all begins with who am I? So as you rightly said, this is a very ubiquitous question out there. And the whole purpose of Vedanta Shastra ultimately is to, reveal Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. So to establish the nature of the self by, and it's usually done through understanding the Tvam Padatha, right? That, this you are the individual. So if you recall Tattva Bodha also, first we saw the nature of the individual. You saw the 3 shariras, you saw the koshas, you saw the avasthatrayam, you saw Atma, and then we established the whole notion of manifestation, looking at this Jagat from a macro perspective, and then we looked at the notion of Ishvara, and ultimately the Aikyam was between Jivatma and Paramatma. So uh, all of these 6 questions in philosophy are fundamentally connected through this Aikyam. So the nature of the self, which is Jiva, nature of the of Ishvara, which is Ishvara, and nature of the universe, which is Jagat. The truth of Ishvara and Jagat, Jeev, Jagat and Ishvara rather, is what is explored in this whole teaching of Vedanta. So
Yeah, I had a question regarding this. Regarding the experience of Brahman, so to speak. Over here, for example, Swamiji gives the analogy of an orange. Like you experience the orange, so to speak. You taste it, you smell it, and then someone comes and tells you that this is orange. He gives you that knowledge, and now you have that immediate knowledge, right? But when we talk about Brahman, right, we say that Brahman can never be an object of knowledge because it is the subject.
Yes.
But if we try to compare it with the orange example, wouldn't we have to somehow see Brahman as an object before someone comes and tells me that no, this Brahman is not an object but a subject? Like, does my question make sense? Like,
Yes, I think what you. Please go
Prashantji, I
ahead.
have a counter question there.
Yeah.
When somebody says vacuum, what do you perceive vacuum as?
like the lack of anything. Like there's
Okay,
nothing
but
there.
it's not a thing, right? You're not perceiving a thing. But how
No,
do you?
no, it's not. As
You understand
I
what I'm
don't. Yes, I don't perceive it as a positive entity.
Correct. So, when you were 2 years old, the word vacuum would not mean a thing. But
Yes.
as you gain understanding, the lack of objects is vacuumous. You start understanding that concept, right? And the self is ever existence. So the only definition is, if you can perceive it, it is not the self. Self is the perceiver, right? The perceiver is what you're getting at. So that which sees everything is self.
Yeah, I see. I understand that. My question is the analogy, the orange analogy. That's where my doubt lies. Because I think that is the main problem, right? We tend to objectify everything, including including Brahman. And it's when we try to learn about how I am this pure Brahman or limitless Brahman, don't we have to first see it as an object before we see it as a subject, so to speak?
Same as space or vacuum, you don't see it as an object, correct?
Yes, but I don't see space as the subject either. See.
Okay, so I understand your question. Okay, now I understand the question itself.
Can I pitch in? So,
Yeah, please.
I think the word direct here means that you need not extend it directly from the orange example. So it is only as direct as whatever we experience is Brahman.
Okay.
And I think taking it beyond that will lead to problems like whether we are experiencing it as an object or as a subject. So whatever that exists is Brahman, and thus whatever we experience is Brahman is not something outside this world. So that's what is meant by direct here.
If I could actually even pitch into what you said, we have to look at this using pramana buddhi, right? So when we talk about an orange, the pramana to see the orange are your eyes. But over here, if one talks about Brahman as an object, supposedly that you treat Brahman as an object, then what is the pramana that you will use to gain this knowledge of Brahman? There's no direct sensory perception over here, right? Your eyes cannot perceive it. Your senses cannot perceive it. Your intellect cannot wrap itself around it. So ultimately, the only pramana over here are the Vedas. And just another example, why only Brahman? Even take something like Swarga. There is a person called Indra. He's sitting somewhere up in Swarga. There is this particular yajna that you perform to, achieve this sort of result. There are some yajnas performed where it can even take you to Swarga. We have examples of the Ramayana and so on. So for all of these things, whether there's a place called Swarga, whether there's a place called Brahmaloka, it's beyond our sensory perception, and therefore we just use the Shastra as a pramanam over here in order to accept it as a given. Because remember, like we spoke about last time, that you have to develop Shraddha in your pramanas. No pramana that you're even born with is something that you intrinsically are born with a deep faith in it. There's no strong commitment. It's something that you develop through your experience and with time, right? So Sundarji had given the peekaboo example as well. So ultimately Brahman, and if you look at the Kenopanishad, and as you correctly said, that you cannot perceive Brahman as an object, because the Kenopanishad says that the one who knows Brahman and the one who does not know Brahman is the one who really knows Brahman, right? And here it says that the one who knows Brahman as the very self, and the one who does not know Brahman as an object is the one who truly knows Brahman. From the Vyavaharika perspective, which is this mithya order of reality,
Yes, yes.
you are the subject, and there are these manifold objects around you. From the Paramarthika level, the subject-object differentiation itself falls apart. There is, it's all undifferentiated. There is no difference between the subject and object. And this is something that, I believe even Sundarji would be interested in this topic, that quantum mechanics kind of gives you a little bit of it scratches the surface of this, about the subject-object non-difference. So, just for example, if you look at the two-slit experiment, your mere observation changes the result. And like this, they've seen some very strange things, such as quantum entanglement and all. And there's a really nice book I encourage reading, of course, not as a substitute, but just as something to strengthen one's nishtha. It's called Quantum. It's basically quantum physics and the enigma of consciousness, or something along those lines. And for the longest time, physicists have been pushing this consciousness subject into the closet. They don't want it to be let out, because it creates a lot of problems. The more one studies the world, the more they realize that I cannot separate consciousness from the equation. I cannot exclude this from my observations, because ultimately I, the subject, am not different at a very fundamental level from the objects around the world. And yet, from the objective perspective, from the mithya order of reality, we apply this drik drishya viveka, that the subject is different from the object, and the seer is different from the seen. So that is only something to get you by, to understand how the world works from this kind of order of reality. But the deeper understanding, where you have to transcend this duality, and it's a matter of understanding, it's not a matter of experience. So Swamiji, actually, very much to your point, he's given I'll show you on YouTube. Luckily, I have these things. It's literally a video called "Experience is Dumb," and Swamiji talks about why it doesn't make sense. If everybody would like to take a look at that as well, I would encourage it. And he says that experience, if you deny the self, if you deny Brahman, you basically deny your own existence. Because Brahman is not something to be objectified. Brahman is something to be, you hear about Brahman, you understand Brahman, and finally you own up to it as your very self. So if I say Brahman does not exist, in effect I'm saying existence does not exist, which is again a logical fallacy. If I say Brahman does not exist, I'm saying consciousness does not exist, which I know is untrue. So the only aspect which we can negate, I suppose, through some kind of convoluted logic, would be that Brahman is not limitless, right? You cannot negate the existence and consciousness part, because those are a given. We know that I exist and I am conscious. I cannot deny that. But what the Vedas truly are a pramana for here is the Anantam aspect of Brahman. So that is what the Vedas says. What is Sat is Chit, and what is Sat Chit is Ananda. There's no three separate definitions or whatever here. It's just one concept, one conceptual whole. So Brahman is not something to be objectified. It's not even something to be experienced. It is something to be known through the Shastras as the very self, as the very Jagat Adhishtanam. And that is why the Pramana Buddhi is very important over here. Because, let's face it, there are a lot of people who may call themselves atheists, and they're not stupid people. They're pretty smart people. And yet they may not accept the notion of Brahman, because they don't have Shraddha in the Shastra. And so I would very distinctly put it that in order to accept that I am existence, consciousness, limitlessness, one has to have this Pramana Buddhi towards the Shastra. And that's the only way one can really arrive at the fundamental truth.
Yeah, I guess over here about an orange which is given, it's regarding just to show that knowledge, Vedas as knowledge is direct. So for instance, like if you see a toddler, he will not know the concept of orange until and unless he has experienced the orange totally through his sensory perceptions, like tasted it, touched it, felt it, and whatever, all those, seen it properly. So I guess it's because of this. But however, if we apply the same analogy to Brahman, Brahman is not something you can experience, as you rightly said, Prashant. It is something to be understood. So, and later, when the toddler grows up, he knows he doesn't need a direct knowledge. He just needs, he can make a mental representation of an orange in his mind. He does not need to have an orange in front of him to know what an orange is, because he has experienced what an orange is before. But then I don't feel the need to apply the same analogy to Brahman over here. This is just for the, in context of explaining that Vedas is a knowledge, is direct.
Yeah.
I think Swarga is something which cannot be seen. So in that sense, it is indirect. In that sense, knowledge of existence of Swarga is indirect. But when you say all that exists is Brahman, then in a sense, knowledge of Brahman is direct. So that's what I think has been meant by direct over here. So when you have knowledge of orange, you see it as something which exists. So when you see everything that exists, the existence itself is a direct knowledge. So that's my limited point.
So if somebody could touch upon the three aspects, you have aparoksha jnanam, you have paroksha jnanam, and you have pratyaksha jnanam, right? So the pratyaksha, as you said, is direct, the five sensory perceptions. Then you have pratyaksha, which is indirect, and then you have something which is aparoksha, the very self. If I just throw an open question out there, I exist. What means of knowledge am I using to arrive at that? There's no means of knowledge, right, to really tell me that I exist. I am conscious, right? It is my existence. It is the very consciousness that blesses all the other means of knowledge. My senses are blessed with this consciousness. My senses are blessed because of the fact that I exist, and therefore I exist is aparoksha jnana. It is not even direct. It is like very, very much evident. It is self-evident, and that's why it's called swatah pramana. So if I am using the terminology correctly, Sundarji, it's the self is swatah pramana, right?
Swatah pramana, self-evident, and swayam bhati. Swayam bhati means it was self-effulgent also.
Yes, I see.
Yeah, swayam bhati.
And so you don't need a pramana for the self that I am, and therefore you don't really. But what you need a pramana for is to understand what I am, and that is why we go to the Vedas. So this is the difference. If I here they're just using another word for the self, which is Atma or Brahman, you can call it. Nobody needs a pramana to know that I am.
Understand what I am not.
Yes, to also understand what I am not. Correct. So, when one actually says that I am not this, I am not that, when the neti neti approach, it's really that I am not only this and I am not only that, right? Because all that there is only I. But I'm not any one of those things, and that is what Pujya Swamiji clarifies. So, Sundarji put it correctly in Sanskrit for me that your swatah pramana, your swatah siddhi, it's you are self-evident, and that is the real way to understand Brahman as a very self, and then you go to the Shastra to understand what this is now. Shall we move to the next section?
Sure. The Gita as a means of knowledge. The Gita, of course, is not as voluminous as the Vedas, which contain all the Upanishads. The Upanishads are the original source book which is understood with the help of books like the Gita, since these books present the same material very cogently in an easily understood form. This is why the Gita is referred to as the Gita Shastra. There are 700 verses in the Gita, contained in 18 chapters, the first chapter and the initial few verses of the second chapter for providing the context. We have, then, the entire Gita Shastra in 17 chapters, wherein the twofold dharma of a committed lifestyle for moksha is unfolded. Because the Gita is a book, grantha, that unfolds this dharma, it is looked upon as a pramana grantha, even though the Upanishads are the pramana, not being born of a given intellect. The Upanishads, meaning the Vedas, form the means of knowledge. But the Gita is also looked upon as a pramana because it upholds and unfolds what the Veda, Shruti, says. If the Gita said anything not in keeping with the Shruti, it would definitely not be considered a pramana grantha. The Gita would not be studied, nor would Shankara have written a commentary on it. The Gita is accepted as pramana grantha because of its affinity and fidelity to the Veda. Lord Krishna himself confirms in the Gita that what he is saying has already been said in the Veda. Furthermore, the Gita is presented by Vyasa, who is considered to be the editor of the Vedas. The four Vedas, collectively referred to as the Veda, existed even before Vyasa. He was the one who grouped them properly so that a designated person in a given family could study one particular Veda and then hand it over to each succeeding generation. Because Vyasa knew the Vedas so well, he was considered to be all-knowing, Sarvagya. In the middle of the vast, beautiful word tapestry of this epic, Mahabharata, Vyasa presented the wisdom of the Vedas in the form of the Gita. It shines in the midst of the much larger work like a pendant jewel. These 18 chapters are therefore considered to be an authentic pramana. The first argument for the Gita being a pramana, then, is that it does not contradict what the Vedas say. It expounds and illustrates what the source book says. The second argument is that it is presented by Vyasa. Thirdly, Vyasa presents Krishna as an avatar of the Lord. Therefore, Krishna is looked upon as an avatar, a particular form the Lord has assumed for achieving certain limited ends. If the concept of avatar is accepted, Krishna as an avatar is Lord Narayan, Ishvara himself. Therefore, when Krishna talks in the Gita, Ishvara, the Lord, is talking. What is said is the word of Bhagavan, Bhagavad Vachana, and Bhagavan is telling us what the Vedas says. This again makes the Gita a pramana grantha for the believers. When Bhagavan himself is talking about what is said in the Vedas, what else do we want? Because the Gita is Bhagavad Vachana, the word of Bhagavan, it is a pramana.
Would you like to discuss something on this topic? So is this pretty clear to everybody, I guess?
It's pretty good. Thank you.
Okay. I'm just seeing if anybody else has joined in case they'd like to be assigned just a number.
Prashant, Jay,
Yeah.
I think it's my turn.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead. And let's also look at the definitions over here. Let's also look at the definitions because the footnotes are very important, I've noticed, in the Gita.
And this was exactly what I asked you the last time.
Oh, I see.
The meaning of Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the one who has Bhaga, the sixfold virtues in absolute measure. These are all knowledge, jnana, total dispassion, vairagya, the capacity to create, sustain and resolve, virya, absolute fame, yashas, all wealth, Shri, and overlordship, Aishwarya. In the footnote, it is said that the one who has Bhaga is
Can we read
called.
the verse also? Just like it's nice to read the verse, I suppose. Bhaga asya asti iti Bhagavan.
Sorry?
No, I was just reading. I was saying that if you can read the verse also, it'll be nice for everyone to hear.
Oh, but in my book, it's Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Viryasya. Is it the same as yours? Because
Yes.
I'm following from my book.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashasah Shriyah Jnana-vairagya yosh chaiva sannam bhaga iti rana. And the meaning is total and absolute overlordship, power, wealth, dispassion, fame, and knowledge are known as bhaga. To have all knowledge, jnana, is to be free from all ignorance. Thus the one who has all jnana does not require a mind, perception, or a means of knowledge with which to know. If we require a mind to know, there is always ignorance. Thus whoever is endowed with a mind in order to know cannot be Bhagavan. We will see later how it is possible to be one with Bhagavan. Bhaga therefore is jnana, all knowledge. Total absolute dispassion is also called bhaga. The one who has total absolute dispassion, vairagya, has no longing, no insecurity. He or she is full. Virya is absolute power or shakti, meaning the capacity to create, to sustain, and to resolve. The one who has this absolute power is called the Almighty. Absolute fame, yashas, means all fame, including your own or anyone else. This is also bhaga. One who is endowed with the ability to sing, for example, may gain some fame, a ray of glory, but that fame belongs to the Lord, the one who has all fame. The Lord also has all wealth, all resources, Shri. Any wealth you may have really belongs to Bhagavan, the Lord, and you are only a trustee of whatever resources you happen to have. Finally, the one who is not caused, who is not ruled by anyone, who is not subject to the laws of someone else, has the bhaga called Aishwarya, overlordship. We as individuals have to go by the laws of nature. We cannot go against them. Even an engineer who is responsible for planning, commissioning, and running a formal plant cannot touch a live wire without facing the consequences. In other words, the engineer cannot behave as he or she likes merely because he or she caused the electricity to be generated. It was because of the laws alone that the engineer was able to generate electricity in the first place. The one who does not subject himself to the law or laws of another is the Lord. If the Lord is ruled by someone else, then that someone else becomes the Lord. And it is this Lord that we are talking about. These six absolute virtues then constitute bhaga, and the one who has this sixfold bhaga is Bhagavan.
Very nice. So this is such an important topic actually. It explains to us in a nutshell what Bhagavan is, the meaning of the word, and also the way to understand Ishvara. And this is a very unique feature of Pujya Swamiji's book, that his introduction itself can constitute an entire treatise by itself. So, you'll find a lot of important topics covered before the actual teaching starts, because this is all setting a good base and a good tone for the rest of the chapters to follow.
Prashant, here it talks about saying these material things are also Bhagavan. Is that what uh, the meaning of this is?
Whatever there is, so if you look at the Ishavasya Upanishad, Ishavasya Midam Sarvam. So whatever is here, whatever there is only Ishvara. And Ishvara is both the Nimitta Karana, which is the efficient cause, the very of the Jagat, and Ishvara is also the Upadana Karanam, the material cause of the Jagat. So a very famous example from the Upanishads would be the pot and the clay. So the Mrig and the Gata. So the clay is the content of the pot. If you have several pots, the clay is not separate from it, and yet it appears in the form of a pot. It has some utilitarian value. So same way, if you truly look in deeper terms, the Jagat has only utilitarian value, but in its substantive is not different from Ishvara. It's not different from Brahman. The substantive of the ocean and the wave both is water, like as we looked at in Tattva. Same way, the substantive of this whole Jagat is Ishvara only. And when we look at, as we spoke about, Brahman from the perspective of the Jagat is who we term as Ishvara. So definitely the material cause of the Jagat is Ishvara, and that's why we are very careful about not using the word creator. We don't believe in any form of creation. We don't believe that there is some God sitting somewhere in some heaven and he has created this world from material separate from himself. Right here, Ishvara appears as the Jagat, and that is the thing to understand.
I think it's important to mention that so there are different levels of understanding God for people of different levels of maturity. So first you understand him as someone who created us, and then so that is the nimitta karanam, and at the second level you understand him as also the material cause. So all the material that is here is him. And then if you ask the question, so is he affected by the material changes, then you answer the question that he's beyond this. He's unaffected by what happens in this world. So there are three levels of understanding him, and it depends on the individual's conditioning to take the final level of understanding.
Absolutely. And that's what Swami Prabhathaji says. So you look at Ishvara, as you said, as Jagat Karta, as a creator. Then you look at Ishvara as Jagat Karanam. And finally, you look at Ishvara as a Jagat Adhishtanam. And that takes you from like what we talked about in the Bhakti Yoga chapter, which is Ekarupa, Anekarupa, and Arupa Bhakti. So does that answer your question, Subhaji?
Yes, Krishna. Thank you.
Okay. And everybody else should feel free to tell. So it's like an open question to the whole group. So I'm sure like some people know these subjects far better than I do. Who's next in the reading?
It's me.
Okay.
Bhagavad Gita, the Lord's Song. There are a variety of Gitas. The Anugita, Uttara Gita, Kama Gita, Pandava Gita, Hamsa Gita, Siddha Gita, Rama Gita, Uditva Gita, Ganesha Gita, etc. But the most popular one is the Bhagavad Gita. The title Bhagavad Gita means the song, Gita, of the Lord Bhagavan. It is considered a song because it is in the form of a verse and therefore pleasing. It has only 2 meters, Anushchanda and Trishubta. Am I right?
Anushtub and Tishtub.
Trishub. Making the Gita easy to recite and remember. The Gita is also pleasing because it has a subject matter that is highly desirable to all. The word Bhagavad Gita is feminine in gender because the Veda, the word Shruti, is feminine, further revealing that what is said in the Gita is said in the Shruti. If you could scroll. And who is Bhagavan here? Krishna is Bhagavan. Krishna is the one who has proved that he has the sixfold Bhaga and is therefore looked upon as Bhagavan. Once you understand the meaning of Bhagavan as the one who has Bhaga, Krishna being Bhagavan presents no problem at all. One can look at the title Bhagavad Gita in another way, as a song that has Bhagavan as its subject matter. This is similar to saying electronic knowledge, knowledge whose subject matter is electronics. Therefore, we can take the title Bhagavad Gita to mean either Bhagavan's Gita or Gita, song that has Bhagavan as its subject matter.
What does it mean when it is said that the Gita has only 2 meters? 2 meters in reference to what?
Sundarji, would you like to take this?
Yes. So meter, when you say meter, it is called chandas. So the way in the ancient Indian lore, everything was put together in meters as in number of syllables per quarter of a shloka, right? So I'll tell you the exact, I'll tell you the chandas. So right from 6 syllables per quarter, that is about 24 syllables, is called Gayatri. Then Ushnik, Anushtup, Brihati, Pankti, Trushtup, and Jagati. Okay. Now I'll type it out. Yeah, I'll type it out later in the sidebar. But
Yeah,
just
please.
remember that. Yeah. So if you have 6 syllables per quarter, when I say quarter, I'll take a full example of Anushtup. Then I'll go back to the quarters. So let's say I take one shloka. Give me any shloka of the Gita, right? So okay. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha, Tatra Shrir Vijayor Bhutir, Dhruvanitir Matirmama. Okay. Now you will see this is, I can divide this into two lines, each line having two parts. So Yatra. Okay, I'm just
You
putting.
divided the shloka into two parts.
Yeah, so there is two lines, right? Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha. That's one line. Second line is Tatra Shrir Vijayor Bhutir Dhruvanitir Matirmama. This is Sajjaya saying in the 18th chapter. Okay. Now I'm just going to, you cannot see my fingers, but I'm counting each syllable as I go. Yatra Yogeshwara, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, right? So Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, that is 8.
8.
Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, 8. Tatra Shri Vijayor Bhutir, 8. Dhruvanitir Matirmama, 8. Okay, so this is called Anushtup. So it's very easy when you sing it out. It's much easy because it falls into a very specific meter. People who know music, Carnatic music and thala and all, you can actually sing it out to a thala. And there is one more type with 11 syllables per quarter, which is 44 syllables in the shloka. Okay. So that is like Apuryamanam Achala Pratishtam Samudramapa Pravishanti Yadvat Tadvat Takama Yam Pravishanti Sarve Sashanti Mapnoti Nakamakami. I won't go into the whole shloka, but let's take the first half or first quarter. Apuryamanam Achalam Pratishtam. Right? That's 11. You get it? Very counting when I said that.
But 11 syllables, right?
11 syllables. So these are the only 2 meters in which the Gita is composed.
Yeah. One is the Anushtup, which is 8, which you have just demonstrated for that shloka of Gita.
Correct. And Trishtup.
Okay.
Second is Trishtup. So what I'll do is I'll write the syllable number of syllables per quarter and the names in the sidebar. Then we can look at it at the end. Does that clear the question? Or was there a specific question about...
It's very interesting to know that. Thank you very much.
And just adding to what Sundarji said, nicely explained now. So in Sanskrit, syllable is defined as a swarakshara. For example, ka is equal to k plus a. So whenever a swarakshara occurs, that is counted as a single syllable. And if half ra occurs, that is not counted as a syllable. If half ka occurs, that is not counted as a syllable. So a swarakshara is counted as a syllable.
Yeah, correct.
Now this is very advanced for me.
What is the meaning of meter? I mean, I'm sorry, what is a synonym for meter in Sanskrit? Chandas?
Chandas.
Okay.
Like when you say Anushtup Chandaha, right?
Yeah.
And one interesting thing about Gayatri is Gayatri is a Devata, Gayatri is also a Chandas, and Gayatri is also a mantra.
I was thinking about that. I remember Swamini told us that Gayatri is a 24 syllables mantra, something like that. Am I right?
Can you repeat it again? Gayatri is?
That Gayatri mantra is a meter with 24 syllables, something like that, she said.
That's correct. Yes, 24 syllables. So if you see the sidebar, it is 6 syllables per quarter, and that's 4 quarters is 24. 6 fours 24, right?
Isn't it 23, Sundarji? I think there's something special with Gayatri mantra.
No, you're thinking about the mantra, but Gayatri Chandas is 6 syllables, so 24.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sundarji, if I'm correct in saying it begins with Bhur Bhuvas. No, sorry, it begins with Tatsavitur Vareniyam, right?
Correct. Purvaswaha is called Vyahrati. Tatsavitu Varenyam is the beginning of the Gayatri mantra. The Bhur Bhuvaswaha are called Vyahrtis.
Okay. So I think Abhinavji was inquiring about the Gayatri having 23. So I mean, this particular the Savitur mantra, it has 23 syllables. Why is that?
I don't know why it is like that, but I just know that it is 23. I think Sundarji would be.
So you're discounting Om there?
No, it has 24 syllables.
I'm not sure. I'm still not sure, but I'm just recollecting from my vague memory.
Yeah.
No, I see 24 only. I think what you're doing is you're not counting the Varenyam. I think you're saying Varenyam.
No, that is a single syllable, right? Vare.
Double.
Oh, that is counted as double, is it?
That's double.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Varenyam. That's why you have a double line there, right?
No, but that's a part of. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that because I think I remember reading it in Mahapariva's one of Kanchi Mahapariva's books that it is 23.
I see.
But I might be wrong. I don't know.
I actually recall Swami Paramathandaji saying that the Varenyam, it is actually 1, and that is why I suppose it gets concatenated to 23. But it's definitely something that.
No.
I'll check it out.
So that is just the swaras are not counted as a part of syllable, I think, because that the going up is called swarita and the going down is called udata. So I think they are not part of syllables actually. That's what I think.
Okay, so let me check it out. This is very important because I've always I'll get back to you on this because what you've said counters what I've heard. So definitely it will be a learning experience. So I don't have to go too far. What I'm going to do is post this here.
Okay.
And on the sidebar, right? And this is from Kamakoti Peetam. And Kamakoti Peetam itself has this line.
I see. It says 24.
Yeah, 24.
But I'll keep my research going. So this is definitely an eye opener.
This is good. This discussion. It kind of like the more we churn through it, the more we really understand about our own.
Okay, so the speciality of Gayatri Mantra is that it has only 3 feet. So I was wrong about the speciality. Okay, I thought the speciality is with the number of syllables. So
I see. What are the varieties of Gita, like other than Bhagavad Gita, the content, like Hamsa Gita and Siddha Gita?
I guess I know a couple of like Uttara Gita is when after the battle is done with the great Mahabharata Yuddha, and the Pandavas return back home to their rightful kingdom, and as I heard Swamiji say once that Arjun says that the battle was it was a raging battle, and during the events I kind of like forgot some of the things you explained to me. So can you please teach me the Gita once again? So the Uttara Gita is a recounting of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Again, just kind of a given summary to Arjuna by Krishna Bhagwan.
Oh.
Rama Gita is the teaching of Ram Bhagwan to Lakshman in the forest when they were in the Vanvas. And the others I'm not sure, maybe somebody else would know about.
Uddhava Gita is a Gita also in the Mahabharata, Bhagavatam if I'm not wrong. It's between Sri Krishna and his one of his closest friend. It's Uddhava. So Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and what was mentioned in the battlefield is very concise. And for Uddhava, the same thing or the same core is mentioned at a very elaborate way. So more on the karma side of things, how to get to, and meditation and all those things. So it's an expansion of Bhagavad Gita. One thing I would like to say about Uddhava Gita, it's very interesting to read. The first chapter begins with the departure of Krishna from the world, or the bodily departure from the earth. And at that point, Krishna was 125 years old, and this is 37 years after the war. So Krishna was 88 years old when the Mahabharata war happened. It's a trivia.
Wow, that it seems so counterintuitive to our perception. All the images and all we have
This
seen.
is
Yeah. There's a temple in South India called the Parthasarathi temple. So if you go there, you'll see Krishna with his the whip in the hand, Totra Vetraika, and he has white mustache.
Ah.
Oh,
So it's
If
very interesting.
I know correctly, are Krishna and Arjuna the same age?
Almost, right? It's within few years, yeah.
I see. This war is between a lot of old people.
Yeah.
And probably the age had a different significance back then, I guess, Is now. There must be something different, I'm sure. I mean, come on, 88 years, you can't sit and stand properly. What will you fight a war?
That is now, right?
Yeah,
Back
that's
then
what I
we
mean.
had organic food.
Abhimanyu, who was 16 years old.
We assume it's 16.
Yeah.
So that's pretty young. When you compare 88 and 16, that's pretty young.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is the trivia from the Uddhava Gita.
That's interesting. I did not know this.
I think neither me. It's really enlightening.
Yeah.
And one of my other favorite, and I think it's a must read for all Advaitis, is the Avaduta Gita. It's ultimate. If you're like, it's the Tatrayas, and start to finish, it is just Advaita, nothing else.
I see.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't know these things.
Can you, Sundarji, can you please type that out? Yeah, thank you.
Who's next to the reading?
It's me.
Oh, okay.
The subject matter of the Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, with Bhagavan as the central matter, actually has two aspects, because both a life of activity and a life of renunciation are presented. One is Yoga Shastra in that it talks about Karma Yoga, and the other is Brahma Vidya, knowledge of Brahman. It is the subject matter, its subject matter therefore implies both activity and the renunciation of activity. Since both the lifestyles are meant for Brahma Vidya is the real subject matter. It is this Brahma Vidya that is pursued by a sannyasi to the exclusion of all else. A sannyasi being the one who has given up all karmas. I would actually put one more word there. A sannyasi being one who has given up all kamya karmas. While a sannyasi pursues only Brahma Vidya, a karma yogi pursues Brahma Vidya plus karma. How does a karma yogi pursue karma? With a certain attitude whereby the karma that is done becomes yoga for him or her. Because both Brahma Vidya and Karma Yoga are to be found in the Gita. The subject matter is twofold: Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra. Hari Om.
Is the Yoga Shastra that's been referred here as Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, is that the one or it's something else?
Yoga Shastra is basically for yogi, it is a Karma Marga or the Upasana Marga. Right?
Yes.
It's all the yogas, because if you see, you have a Karma Yoga, Karma Jnana Sannyasa, you have Jnana Sannyasa, you have Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga. You have all the yogas together.
And
I'll
what
continue.
does karma?
Brahma Vidya.
Brahma Vidya.
Sundarji, what does karma mean here when Puja Swamiji says it become yoga for him?
Right. So
Yes, I know that there was a recent post that I read which says yoga means topic.
topic.
Yeah, the word yoga means topic, but here it is used as karma becomes a yoga for him.
Actually, just a little brief interjection. I've kind of read the introduction earlier of this Gita, and Pujya Swamiji explains the meaning of yoga in detail, like what are the different connotations surrounding yoga. So this will definitely be addressed in greater detail. So just wanted to mention that.
Did I hear it right? TOPIC, topic?
Yeah,
Okay.
but actually, Pujya Swamiji explains about all the connotations associated with yoga. But, yoga is one of the very misunderstood words that we have out there in pop culture, especially. So he basically explains correctly, like why are every single chapter of the Gita called a yoga, and what are the what is the meaning of yoga basically. So I just wanted to say that it's mentioned ahead, so we might as well just see it more in detail when it comes up. So hold on to that thought.
Yeah, okay, I'll remember.
And karma, I think there was a question of karma. Karma is Veda Vihita karma, and it is Samarpana Bhavena karma. Not selfish, but selfless karma.
I see.
So this selfless karma becomes a yoga for him.
For him or her, correct. If you see the definition of a sannyasi, kamyanam karmanam nyasam sannyasam kavayo viduhu. Right? That's why I had to add the word kamyanam karma. Okay, back to
But
you.
my doubt was about the use of the word yoga rather than karma. I was thinking how karma can become yoga.
Okay. How can karma become yoga? Now,
Yeah, that's the sentence.
you do, no, I know, but it's answered in the Gita itself. No, we all do karma for survival, for, we gain money, or we do something for either gaining happiness or for discarding unhappiness. So we do karma anyway to survive. Any karma that is done as a offering to the Lord is the karma that's talked about here. So that's yoga karmasu kaushalam, right? So the kaushalyam in karma, the samarpana bhava is all I can think of when I express this word. So nothing for you. It's not what's in it for me. It's this work has to be done, right? So any work that you're doing, just do it with equanimity of mind, and do it because it's to be done. That's pretty much it. Chapter 4 describes the definition of karma also. 3 and 4. 3 is karma yoga, 4 is yajna.
Yeah. Actually, Karishma ji, I would say that these questions relating to Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, each chapter is literally dedicated to that, spanning a couple of hundred pages. So certainly, like let's just to kind of maintain the flow of thought and based on what we are looking at right now, let's look at the introductory topics and discuss what is like mainly mentioned in those sections. But we'll go into the deeper details when the topics arise, because for the most part, you'll find your questions being answered as we go along, as we like
Yeah,
discovered last time.
yeah, sure.
Can I add a brief comment?
Yeah, sure.
So I think so. Yoga is used in the sense of worship here. So for a karma yogi, the action becomes worship. So I think that's what it means here.
Yeah, like based on like what Sundarji also said, it's really the right attitude that you are doing your actions with. So the Ishwar Arpana Bhava,
Sure.
the Ishwar Prasada Buddhi, whenever you associate this right sort of attitude and you build a relationship with Ishvara with all your karmas, then it becomes a yoga. It becomes an offering. It becomes an act of gratitude. So it's really the right attitude behind your actions, and of course, then we go into the whole realm of nishkama karma and sakama karma and so on. But definitely, like, what you're saying is correct.
Just one, I don't know, this question it just came to me. Why do we have this
Mhm.
choice? You can either be a sannyasi or do a karma yoga. I mean, why there's a choice like that? Why not say become a sannyasi? All of you become a sannyasi and reach moksha and things like that, or all of you do karma yoga and reach
I
moksha.
actually had
And
this long discussion with Swaminiji, and I've had this talk with a lot of acharyas. See, some people are designed, based on your pravritti, based on your present inclinations. I mean, based on your just your mindset to choose the path of actions. And some people have that sort of dispassion which is already developed, and for them the path of sannyasa works. But suppose you recommend to everybody uniformly that you must be a sannyasi. We've seen many cases. Let's face it, that we've seen a lot of cases where some people take sannyasa, they were not ready for it, and then all sorts of embarrassment takes place, right? So it's not correct to impose an ashrama upon a person, especially when it comes to sannyasa. So you have to let them grow into it. It's something that you have to choose as a lifestyle for yourself. It's something that you have to choose as a committed path. So, for instance, if I asked you that, are you ready to take sannyasa tomorrow? What would you say? Just hypothetically, right? You may feel that, okay, chalo, I have some things to take care of. I have my family, I have my parents, this, that, whatever. So all of these responsibilities, duties, burdens are weighing down upon you, and you alone know when is the right time for you to take to this path of sannyasa. A person who's not prepared for sannyasa, taking to sannyasa it's a disaster in making. So that's why for the path of action, the karma yoga is definitely suggested for everybody to grow through, to cultivate the sadhana chatushtaya, to cultivate the right sort of vairagya, because one of the most essential qualities in a sannyasi is to have vairagya towards certain things, certain repose, in their mind, a sense of satisfaction and a sense of comfort with regards to not wanting to have any other excessive desires. Like they don't have the desire to have start a family, they don't have a desire to get married, and these things should not be there. And if at all there is any semblance of these desires in one's mind, then one should fulfill them dharmically, because fulfilling one's desires is not wrong as long as it is done with the right attitude, without any adharmic consequences involved there. So the path of karma and the path of a grihastha, I mean, the life of a grihastha is going to eventually take you towards sannyasrama, either in this lifetime or another lifetime. But one has to make use of this opportunity while we are in this ashrama. That's what I feel.
just to add on to what Prashant Bhai said, I think basically there isn't a choice between a life of karma yoga and a life of sannyasa. Like to assimilate the knowledge, we need a prepared mind. We need a contemplative mind, and I would say a lot of us do not have that sort of contemplative mind. We do not have a mind that's relatively free from our raga and dvesha. So to free our minds or to gain relative control over our raga and dvesha, we need a life of karma yoga so that we can have that sort of contemplative mind which we can uh, use to assimilate knowledge. So I would just say, in my opinion, there isn't a real choice between the two.
Okay, I mean, from what I understand, that we even when you're doing karma yoga, you're kind of preparing the mind or yourself to eventually go into the uh, I mean, to achieve, go into sannyasa and then achieve moksha or something like that.
Okay, so here I will make a very important point here, which is you're not leading a life of karma yoga to prepare for sannyasa. You're basically doing it for the sake of chitta shuddhi. Now, I agree that these examples may be rare and far between, but we have many cases where even grihasthis were jnanis, right? If you look at the case of Janaka, or you look at even you look at Rama, you look at Krishna, you look at all these, even the avatars we had, they were grihasthis when, and they were jnanis as well. Even many of our rishis during they were jnanis before they took to sannyasa. So in the case of Yajnavalkya, we know that he was married, and a lot of rishis. So all I'm saying is that the attitude here for karma yoga is not to prepare for sannyasa. It is basically to prepare for jnanam. Sannyasa is a
Yeah.
it's a very natural thing that will arise when your uttama adhikaratvam will shine through, and when you have more or less quelled your ragas and dveshas, as Abhyuday ji said, Bhai said. So you so one does not perform the rightful actions of a grihastha in order to become a sannyasi, but in order to gain chitta shuddhi. That is what I would say.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Because why restrict yourself, right? That I can become a jnani only if I become a sannyasi. That kind of may create an unnecessary conditioning. So one should know that I mean, ultimately my goal is to assimilate knowledge of the self, and I have to do what I can to give rise to chitta shuddhi, chitta ekagrata, and ultimately jnana nishtha. Regardless of my ashrama, though the advantages of sannyasa are certainly there, that you have a better environment for sure, and definitely your roles and responsibilities are geared towards this knowledge. So you no longer have like these worldly responsibilities of making money and taking care of family and this and that. So your attention and focus is on the jnanam, but it's not a choice that you have to become a sannyasi in order to be a jnani. That's all I wanted to mention, though it definitely helps.
Okay. Thank
Are you
you
planning
for
to take sannyasa?
no, not in this janma.
Don't even hold that thought, you know what I mean? Be open, that's all. Perhaps after 15, 20, 30 years, you never know. So
Okay. All right, Prashant. I'll think of you back if and that happens. Okay. Thank you.
so Unnati, would you like to read this?
Yeah, can I? Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Brahma what is? Brahma Vidya means the knowledge of what is. What is Brahman? What is Ishvara, the Lord? What is the reality of the world, Jagat? What is the nature of the individual, Jiva? What is the truth of oneself, Atma? What is the relationship between the Jiva and Ishvara? What is the reality of each of them? Is there anything common among them? Are they all one, or are they separate entities? Brahma Vidya, knowledge of Brahman, reveals all of these. To gain this Brahma Vidya, there are certain qualifications mentioned, which Karma Yoga alone can provide. To help one gain these qualifications, Karma Yoga is discussed in detail in the Gita. Because both Karma Yoga and Brahma Vidya are dealt with, the Gita is considered complete and referred to as Gita Shastra. This is what is meant by one particular verse praising the Gita. Gita Sugita Kartavya Kim Aneha Shastra Vistareha. The Gita has to be studied well. What is the Let me scroll down. What is the use of studying other elaborate works? The completeness of the subject matter unfolded by the Gita is highlighted here. People always say that whenever they are in trouble, they go to the Gita and their problem is solved. Maybe they do find answers in the Gita because one can read into it whatever one wants. Be that as it may, the Gita has something of its own to give. Do you want what it has to give? That is the question.
Any thoughts here?
This is something that I often heard people say that they find all answers in Gita. Uh, I mean, this is what it says here also.
Yeah.
If, even the recent Mangalayana, the scientist who was working on it, he said that he used to read the Gita every day and find his answers in this. So, I mean, let's see. I mean, we all are reading it. I hope every one of us finds our own answers here.
Yes. And I think Swamiji had once also mentioned that many times the Gita is being misused. Like, for example, you take courses where you're teaching management from the Bhagavad Gita and you're like making money from these things. So certainly the Gita has everything to offer, everything that one wants, everything that one looks for. But ultimately, one has to come to the understanding that the main purpose of the Gita, as Swamiji himself mentions, is that it is a yoga shastra and and it is also to reveal Brahma Vidya. So those are the two main purposes for the Gita. It can teach you management, it can teach you leadership skills, it can teach you a lot of things. But so can a lot of other books for that matter.
Yeah, but the speciality is that it can also give you Brahma Vidya and Karma Yoga. I mean, that's the speciality, I guess.
Yes. Who's next? Oh, that's me, sorry. uh, Understanding the Gita. To know what the Gita says requires inquiry, vichara. In the introduction to his commentary on the Gita, Shankara says, Tadidam Gita Shastram Samasta Vedartha Sara Sangraha Bhutam Durvi Neyartham. The sense of the Gita Shastra, which is in the form of the essence of the meanings of all the words of the Vedas, is difficult to grasp. तदर्थ आविष्कारण्य करणाय अनेकै विवर्त पदार्थ वाक्यार्थ न्यायम् अपि अत्यंत विरुद्ध अनेकार्थत्वेन लौकिकस्य गृह्यमानम् उपलभ्य अहं विवेकतः अर्थनिर्धारणार्थं संक्षेपतः vivaranam karishyami. By many commentators, in an effort to clearly expound its meaning, this has been expounded in the form of treatises that deal with the words of this text, the meanings of the words, the meanings of the sentences, the logic involved, etc. Seeing that they are fraught with vagueness and contradictions, in order to ascertain the correct meaning with due discrimination, I am writing this brief commentary. The essence of any knowledge is sometimes expressed too cryptically to be understood. Because the Gita is the essence, one naturally has to know the entire Shastra to fully appreciate what the Gita is saying. Even though Arjuna had a certain background, it was not easy for him to understand. He had to ask questions. If it was not easy for Arjuna, it is definitely not going to be easy for someone in our time who does not have the same background, being so far removed from both Arjuna and the Vedas. For such a person, the Gita will be as difficult to understand as any other text of Vedanta. The knowledge of oneself is in the form of words, but since the subject matter is something very unique, the knowledge is not easily accessible through words. At the same time, words are employed to reveal the self immediately. Therefore, one requires not only the teaching, Vedanta as a pramana, but also a teacher, a guru.
What does the Sanskrit verse mean over here?
Uh,
Tadartha Avishkar.
so it's been explained over here, the verse.
Oh, okay.
So Shankaracharya writes this commentary on the Gita to clarify the meaning of what and clarify the import of the Gita. What is the real teaching of the Gita? Because there can be many contradictions, there can be many assumptions made, right? And as we saw
Right.
earlier, that the Gita can be presented as I was listening to Swamiji's talk on the Gita, and I think I was talking to Nriti also the other day that a lot of people can justify the Gita to have many different imports. Like for a hardcore bhakta, he can say that bhakti is the true message of the Gita. For a person inclined towards karma, he can say that karma is the true message of the Gita. For a jnana yogi, one can say jnana yoga is the true message of the Gita. But ultimately, the tatparyam has to be one, right? It has to have like one ultimate main message. And the main message of the Gita, just as all the other Vedanta Shastras, is Brahma Vidya. And Swamiji also talks about how you begin with a particular verse. um, Ashocharanvashochaswam prajnavadamsha bhasase gatasum agatasumscha nanushosanti panditaha. So here the first verse is again, all about Jnana Yuga. It's talking about the wise man. And also the chapters, the 18th chapter more or less ends with the teaching of Jnana. So um, it's a full circle. And so it begins with Jnanam, it ends with Jnanam, and everything that is in between is kind of a preparatory stage to uh, kind of build a connection between the two. That, first to establish the purport, and this is what any good teacher of any subject will do. First, they will tell you what it's about, and then they will explain why it is in a certain way. Then again, they will end with the same conclusion that they started off with. So Shankara does this very meticulously. You have pada analysis, which is the analysis of every word. Then you have vakya analysis, which is the analysis of the entire sentence. Then you have the Tathparyam analysis, where you analyze the entire work as a whole, and you also understand the entire Veda as a whole. You understand Vedanta as a whole. You understand the Gita as a whole, and you try to see where the relevant meaning fits in and what is really being established over here. So it removes it precludes any cherry picking that's involved. You cannot cherry pick whatever you want and say that this is the ultimate conclusion of the Gita. So that is something that a commentary of say, for example, Adi Shankaracharya will aim to establish the clarity of what is being expounded in the teaching.
Should we continue?
Yeah, I think we can maybe do one more.
Yeah, sure. The need for a teacher. There are two letters in the word guru. Gu means darkness or ignorance, and Ru means the one who removes it. Thus, a guru is one who removes darkness of ignorance by teaching the Shastra. The teaching is the Shastra, and the teacher is also the Shastra. As a teacher, then, I do not use the Shastra, rather, what I teach is Shastra. What does this mean? The teaching itself comes to life when it is handled in a certain way. Otherwise, all you have are so many dead words. Even though the teaching is a pramana, there is a methodology employed for unfolding the words. A teacher, a guru, is one who is able to unfold the meaning of these words. The words are already there and their meanings are already there. They need only to be unfolded for your comprehension, just as an artist unfolds his vision on the canvas.
So this reminds me of the definition of Shraddha from even the Tattvabodha. There is Vedanta Guru Vakyeshu Vishwasaha. So the teaching is never standalone. It is never by itself. Like, you don't consider the Shastra by itself as an inert object of Pramana. It is Shabda Pramana. It has to be unfolded through Guru Mukhya, through the Guru Vachanam, through the words of the Guru, of the Acharya. And the Acharya himself, as we'll probably see ahead, has to be preferably a Brahmana and a Brahmanishta. This is a qualification given in the Mundaka Upanishad about who qualifies as a guru. So the Brahmana implies a lot of things. First is, of course, he understands the knowledge of what is unfolded in the Shastra, and he also has the correct methodology surrounding this teaching. So he knows how to unfold it for others. So he should be a competent acharya who is able to treat Shastra as a Shabda Pramanam and who is able to hand this teaching down in a very clear, concise, and non-ambiguous way to an aspirant student.
So I think the right words are Shrotriya Brahmanishtaha.
Yes.
So Shrotriya is one who has gone through the traditional teaching, and Brahmanishtaha is one who is established in Brahman.
Yes. So it's always easy, impossible for us to determine whether a person is Brahmanishta or not. But certainly, as you said, that if he's been through a legitimate sampradaya, he's been through an uninterrupted teaching tradition in a parampara, then there's maybe somebody else remembers this verse, I don't, but Shankaracharya ji on his Mundaka Bhashya, he says that asampradaya with murkha upekshiniyat or something. Sorry, my Sanskrit is terrible, but basically he's saying that no matter how learned a person pretends to be or a person is, even if he studied like 100 shastras and he studied the Vedas by heart, if he does not belong to a sampradaya, then you should dismiss him as a fool. And these are strong words, but they are very powerful in basically letting us know that the guru, the acharya, has to be sampradayic. He has to belong to a legitimate parampara. He cannot be like a standalone guy who suddenly says that, look, I have this knowledge and I can hand it down to you. I don't have any teachers. I went into meditation and I, intuited all of this by myself, and now I'm ready to give it to you. Two-step enlightenment. I come to you, I flick you on your forehead, and that's it. Your work is done. It cannot work that way. There has to be an uninterrupted parampara, teaching tradition, and you have to have gone through the rigor of this parampara in order for you to pass this knowledge down to somebody else.
And not just that, so the person the teacher might, I mean, you can call him a teacher if you want to. Okay, so he might be genuine, but he might not have the necessary vocabulary to convey it to the student. So he might end up conveying something that he understands very well, but the student might misunderstand it, and he gets all the more confused.
Yes. And this is an associated risk with not having gone through the parampara. Because, for instance, if Krishna Bhagavan talks about the yoga prashta, right, in the Gita, that, chalo, you may have done your Shravanam Mananam, but there's a little bit of Nididhyasana left. And so you might be born again, you may, like you said, you may be very well acquainted with this knowledge, and you may be very close to having this nishtha, but you don't have the tools required to teach it. And therefore, you may come across as very wise to other people, and you may have this radiance about you. But still, you are not a qualified Sampradayik teacher because you haven't been through the rigor of a parampara. And I think that is what truly qualifies a Brahma Shrotriya. Shall we continue with this topic in the next session? It's been an hour and a half.
Again, we do it next time.
Okay, we do it next time. So let's just close off with Shanti Mantra. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.